and you have to do me a favor to give me my peace. That's a different world I don't live in myself. I cannot ask anybody to do me a favor to have Rwanda secure or to have my right. Well, initially maybe I can ask you to do a favor, tactically, I can say, please, I beg you, I can even kneel down if you want. But if you don't give me my right, then it means a fight. We will fight, no question about it. So there is no way, where I'm concerned, you can do me a favor for my right. Who are you after all? Who are you to have everything, including my own right, that you can control? How? Who are you? What gives you that right or power to be able to do that? So I've given you more than you really wanted, but Goma is part of the problems we have in Eastern Congo. And yes, Goma should go back to its operations as an airport. But what is it that stopped it being so in the first place? So you must address that. You want to address humanitarian crisis. I agree. There must be a way of doing it, taking on board the fact that there is what is causing the humanitarian crisis, and that must be addressed. Right? So, anything else about Goma?
Well, somehow there is also another side of the whole story that has been kept repeated, especially now it's still alive in Europe. It's about the looting of minerals and all of that. I mean...
Again, that is nonsense.
Exactly.
They looted minerals better than anybody, worse than anybody I know of in history. So would you even listen to that? Minerals? Minerals, they sell minerals in, what is it? In Antwerp, in where is?
Antwerp. Diamonds.
Diamonds.
But there are no
Do they produce diamonds? Or they have gold, bullions they took long ago and they are adding more. Do they have a lot of gold really? Do they have gold mines? These Europeans? They take it, okay. To make their case even simpler or less than it is, they may even say, no, but the gold or the diamonds or whatever we have is brought by legitimate people, okay? Would you believe that? But that legitimate, when they are there, they are the legitimate ones. So, but this whole thing, why do you think, by the way, there is something to do with there is an MOU actually we're supposed to be having with Europe, which involves, I think, and a lot has been worked on about traceability and so on and so forth, okay? Rwanda got involved in that and passed every stage and standard that was expected on that. Now, what is funny and contradictory is, at At some point, then DRC goes to Europe and says, no, 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 don't sign anything with. But how do you not sign anything that was supposed to be transparent and show where the minerals are coming from or who is involved? So on one hand, you want to be clear that there is nothing except that Congolese always passed through here, and some sold it here to Rwandans who went and sold it to somebody else. Others, they sell it through Burundi, through Uganda, through the neighbors. But it is only Rwanda that was picked on about minerals. Simply because, I think with the audience back home in Europe, they listen more to these accusations. The more they hear of them, then the more questions they raise about Rwanda. Whether what they are saying is happening or has happened or not. So minerals, really think, okay, FDLR, that actually at some point was in control of Goma, or the surroundings of Goma. Why are they found to be innocent in the whole equation? And yet every day we point out things to do with FDLR. But they are not interested. They say, no, they are few. Well, if they think they are few, they should come here. We will we give them face-to-face conversation with those that have been brought from Eastern Congo recently. They will tell them the stories. But do you think they even want to do that? Haven't some of you journalists, maybe, I hope you're also not selective about what you want to know. Haven't you asked to go and meet these people who have been brought from Congo, the FDLR, to tell you their stories that show you how they are so embedded and intertwined with the Congolese forces and other systems of government? So that plays behind the scenes role, and you don't see it at the forefront being talked about. In fact, some of these FDLR have been doing mining in Eastern Congo. Where do they take their minerals? Maybe those are the minerals that end up in Europe, but they would rather hold Rwanda responsible based on the stories around minerals. What sense does it make? You know, don't... sometimes we overrate people. We overrate them in a sense. We think they have, when it has been said by Europeans or by this, then it must be true. But these are the things they get involved in. Petty things. And without borders. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. President. We have one more question about Goma from Romain Gras of Jeune Afrique. The question says, President Macron said on the sidelines of the G20 that the M23 and those who control Goma airport have not made the necessary effort to reopen it, stating that the administrative conditions have been met by the DRC. What steps need to be taken to achieve progress on the airport issue?
Well, I don't know, what is being referred to as the government of DRC having met what? I don't understand. That they met what?
The administrative needs.
What administrative need? To the best of, I don't know what, first of all, the meaning of what he had said. For example, are you aware that the airspace in Eastern Congo is actually closed? You can't overfly. You have people flying from wherever, whether South Africa or going there. Or planes don't overfly Eastern Congo because DRC government closed the airspace. Now you want to open an airport in a closed airspace, and he says somebody has met the standards, administrative standards. I don't understand the meaning of it. Second, those M23 and others who control what? Who control them? You mean M23 who control, or M23 and others?
And those who control.
Ah, okay. Could I equate it with saying, maybe he wouldn't like that, the government of DRC, the FARDC, and FDLR. FDLR actually has a big control in that area. They are being fought every day by the M23, even before those who control the airport come in. So would President Macron wish to say something about FDLR? I don't think so. You know the reason? There is a whole story about FDLR and those others from Europe who talk about the airport, those others who control it other than M23. There are those others from Europe who control FDLR. That's why they are always quiet about FDLR. You see always when issues about Eastern Congo, about Rwanda, backed M23, and then when FDLR, they are really whispering. They don't even want anybody to hear it. And then for government of DRC, it's some individuals who get involved in these wrong things. It's not a government. I mean, this is selective way of presenting issues and even wanting to address matters sensitive like that based on how you have selected to handle it. I think it becomes part of the problem. By the way, that's why I was saying those others, other than those who control the airport, but from Europe, have been part of this problem as of origin of 31 years ago tragedy we had here. We've been associated with that. maybe with time, when, if those things keep coming up, and the way they have been, we will say more about that. I think if they think we can be silenced, to not talk about their historical role and responsibility in matters of tragedy here in Rwanda, and which crossed into Congo, and people are there, you see hate speech, you see all kinds of by leaders. And those others in Europe tend to minimize it and don't even want to talk about it. But then they talk about Goma, M23, and the others who control it. Who control both? I mean, I guess they mean who control M23 and who control Goma. Yeah, but there are those others also who control from the same place where the voice came, who control government of DRC and control FDLR. And that's why FDLR, people keep quiet about it. But, well, if they want us to roll back the whole efforts of the understanding of how we should relate based on their involvement in the tragic history of this country and the region, they are welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. Next question for Lionel.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Lionel Ditalier from Pan-African Review. My question will be about Africa's security in more broader terms. At the recent Land Forces Commander held in Kigali, you noted that Africa still faces the world's the most active conflicts, and that the response is constrained by external bureaucracy and decisions made afar, even when speed and autonomy are needed. At the same time, Rwanda's interventions in Mozambique and Central Africa show us what African-led solution can achieve when partners trust each other and act decisively. So in light of these contrasting realities, what do you think are the reforms required for Africa to be able to strengthen its capacity to respond on its own terms? And how do you see Rwanda's interventions or partnership shape that future?
Yeah, it's an important question, but very difficult. Again, I think if I remember the saying, you can take horses to the well to drink water, but you can't force them to drink. You take them there, but it is the horses to drink the water anyway. If they don't want, you can only just stand by and watch, isn't it? So I think Africans, we have everything. We have the water in front of us, and we are thirsty, we should be drinking. But we find an excuse for not drinking the water. I don't think we need anybody coming and whipping us into that. So when the Africans decide to drink the water that they actually badly need, I have no medicine. I can't. The only thing we try to do when we collaborate with our brothers and sisters on the continent, like in Mozambique or Central African Republic, or participate in other efforts, We are only trying to say we can drink the water. We are actually drinking the water based on our thirst for it. And then it's like saying, why don't you? Telling somebody else, why don't you quench your thirst? So, I don't know. There is nothing Africa doesn't have, actually. All these things, or these areas where we fall short, I can only be surprised and say, why? Why do we keep falling short on everything? The provision for security for our people. When we have the people, we have the resources, we have the knowledge, we have... what is it that Africa doesn't have? Tell me. We have good weather, maybe that's what spoils you. We have... what don't we have? Numbers, we have 1.4 billion people on our continent. So what do we want? What else do we want? Or what do we lack? So that is, it's a pathetic situation. Yeah. I don't think I have helped you to understand what you can do, but not for lack of trying. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. We take one question and then go to break from Anangwe.
Thank you, Mr. President. Eugene.
Maybe why don't we continue a little bit, then maybe another 15 minutes and then take a break.
Eugene Anangwe, we're CEO, founder, East Africa Media Group, and the Africa Leadership and Dialogue Institute. Mr. President, my question is on leadership. And I listened to you keenly at the recent Unity Club forum, where you challenged Rwandan leaders to reflect on what's holding Africa back. And I remember you talking about feeling that this is linked to leaders who pursue individual gains. For the close to 20 years I've been in Rwanda, I reflected on this, especially listening to people who have been serving in different quarters. And when someone tells them, "Nukomeza bucho, urisanga kuri yellow paper," and they say, "Reka, reka, 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 reka." And the reka, reka, reka is not because they don't want to serve, but because of the pressure to deliver. And that leaders in this amazing country go through.
The pressure to deliver without apology.
Exactly,
yeah.
Yes. And this brings me to the question of your style of achieving this culture. I know of countries where people will kill each other to get those positions of leadership. But here, not everybody can take that pressure to deliver without apology. So if you were to deliver a lecture at President Kagame's School of Leadership, what would those three things be that you'd say about this subject of servant leadership that happens in this country? And then the East African community, the momentum seems to have died out. Checking on ground, people feel like it's not the same pressure, the same momentum that was there. I know in this room, half of the people might not know who's the current chair of the ESC Heads of State Summit. It's not like long ago where there was a lot of hype around this. Something must have happened, Mr. President. I don't know if you also feel the same. What is that might have happened? And what do we need to do to be able to bring back that momentum that we had about this fastest growing regional economic bloc? Thank you.
Well, to start with the last, I think you hire different people. You hire different leaders and see if they can. But leadership is a broad subject and always discussed in every corner and part of the world. It doesn't mean one thing. Many people have different definitions or interpretations of what should happen. I'll give you my take. It's so simple. First, leadership isn't about just serving yourself and being proud that you've done something for yourself, except you can do that only if you are delivering something. Because if you are leading people and you are delivering, and you see the benefits reflected in the lives of those people, then you can have personal satisfaction and pride. So this is different from what I started by saying. If you lead and you're so much involved in what you can do to benefit yourself, that's the opposite. I can only serve to benefit myself by being satisfied that my role as a leader is benefiting those I lead. Well, but that then becomes the theory, the broader theory or philosophy of leadership. But we also know that more importantly, there is the practice of it, the real tangible results you can see and hear from people. That makes the biggest difference. So with that understanding, which I think many people have, the rest becomes a choice of how you are going to live your life and the purpose of any service or leadership role you may be playing. We can learn the theory, but in the end, the practice is ours. Yes, you can study and have degrees bestowed upon you about leadership, and you can be an expert and be there actually teaching leadership, and everybody moves out of the room energized and feeling on top of the world. But the moment you step out of the door, the choice is yours. How you use that energy to fulfill the obligations that the theory was talking about. So it's not an easy thing. So you can therefore have this and match it on to what you asked about East Africa or whichever entity or institution. We have to keep trying, we have to keep challenging one another on the basis, at least, of this theory, and then tying it with the practice and say, but we are saying these right things in this institution, but the practice seems to be coming out differently. So you have to agree that's how issues of accountability come in, because people they understand the theory but have failed on the practice, and they are causing damage to those they lead. And therefore, that's when you say, if you are found to be doing this and you run into this and you are causing suffering, then measures should be taken. By doing it intensively, I think you reduce on the damage that is caused by bad leadership. So, as you said, but at a personal level, I also confess, I will tell you, I have no apologies to make for. And then I tell my people, you know it very well. I have said, by the way, when you get tired of me, get rid of me. I'll walk away without any, I will not fight back. If people say, no, you're becoming too much, insisting, both, too much is not just in time. Too much can also be how much you do in time that disturbs people, okay? But accountability and the desire to have results is not for the half-hearted, no. So by nature, I found either I'm doing it, unless somebody shows me saying, what? There's something wrong you are doing. I listen, by the way. I also have ears, I have a sense of trying to listen and learn, but if nobody comes up, and we all agree that what we are doing is the right way to go, on that one, I push everybody in my domain as much as I can. But age is catching up with me, so I have some reduced energy, not like I had 25 years ago. But I still have, I can still bite. I still have some, right.
Thank you, Mr. President. Vincent?
Marco's Excellency, Vincent Gasana, Katie Press. Bear with me, sir, I'm going to go back to the DRC crisis, which continues to cause instability, insecurity, and of course, devastation for the people of Congo. It seems to me, sir, that the main factor perpetuating the crisis is what is a determination by certain Western governments to direct away from the attention away from the causes, underlying causes of the crisis, and instead just seeking to make Rwanda some kind of sacrificial lamb for everything to do with the DRC. Now, I appreciate, sir, that Rwanda does not have the power or the influence of these nations, but it is nonetheless a sovereign nation, a sovereign member of the United Nations, African Union, and other similar bodies. I wonder if there are any mechanisms within these bodies where Rwanda can table motions to hold these governments to account, not just to give Rwanda respite, but most importantly, really, for the sake of the people of Congo who suffer the most from what is a profoundly egregious cynicism, which this government seem to think works in their interest. Thank you very much.
Yeah, again, it's, I can say we are trying, and we'll keep trying. Maybe every day that comes to pass has brought something new, and looking forward to the next. But this is the state of affairs in the world we live in. There are these things that are never straightforward, and much as we may deny it and keep running away from it, it's that saying, having might tends to make people right, or give them the right. So we have had this for a long time. They might tend to think they are right, and they don't care, even when they realize that what they are involved in is wrong. But as long as it benefits them one way or the other, they will take that direction. They don't care about you, and especially when it comes to we Africans who are even ready to accept it. It's like Africans, we are happily exploited. We tend to, be so subservient that somebody does wrong to you, and the tendency is for the Africans to be the ones to apologize. You get offended, you get hurt, then you are the one to apologize. And really I can't keep blaming somebody else other than ourselves. Why do we? So, but we can't keep quiet. We always raise these issues. I'm sure there are many who are capable of doing that and who want to do that. We all can't be silent in this case. So while our power is limited, it's not like theirs. One, we have to reject it, that we can't just be treated the way we are. The second is we even have some way of fighting back. Fighting back includes to keep exposing the truth about all these lies and the suffering that is brought upon us, we Africans. Of course, that requires you have to have people who are like that, but then above all, you have to have a coordinated effort. That's why there is always a search for Africans. You are talking about, you are from Pan-African something. Yeah, the Pan-African means really working together, finding like minds to, and not accepting that we can, whether at individual level or at a collective level, we just have to. So there is always a moment, there is always a chance, there is always a place where even speaking up and speaking out makes a difference. That's what we have to do. And knowing that most of these crises, actually, when you look a bit underneath, there are things like this. We are talking about Congo a while ago. There's nothing between Rwanda and Congo and the conflict thereof. There's nothing that is just Congo and Rwanda. Underneath, there is a volcano, yes, that you have to contend with. There are these external factors and actors and forces that are operating. So the moment you are conscious of that and keep finding ways to minimize the damage it causes, I think the better.
Mr. President, we'll take one more question coming in from William Wallace of Financial Times. He's asking what is causing the delays to the Washington summit with DRC. If it does go ahead next month, how confident are you in a peace that sticks?
Yeah, that's almost like another question I answered earlier, but what is delaying, I can assure you, does not come from or relate to Rwanda. I want to confirm that. it comes from somewhere else. I don't know, maybe the one who asked the question can keep trying to investigate, but nothing originates from Rwanda. But the question I answered earlier is, I mean, people, we have had so many meetings, our delegations have met in Washington, and there is also, I keep bringing back Doha, there is Doha, but they discuss, they are near agreeing something, or sometimes they agree something, and then just out of that place, the next day, somebody is just it's in the open. It's not done quietly. Something, no, I want to do this until you have heard somebody say, we are not going to sign anything in Washington until Rwanda has removed forces from DRC. That becomes, but these are things that have been discussed even before we went to Washington. There was a discussion about that, whether in Rwanda or so. But then you are in Washington, we agree that, yes, there are a number of things that are going to be done by both sides, and this is the sequence, and they sign. Our people, delegation, and the delegation from there, they sign. And then after that, the next day, whether still in Washington or back home, they say, no, we are not going to do this until, now they set different conditions other than what was actually done and agreed in Washington. So this is what delays the things. So for us, we've been here waiting. There were many times we are hoping that they are saying that maybe beginning of December, I'm not sure that we are going to meet in Washington. I'm not sure whether tomorrow somebody doesn't say, no. For me, I'm not going to Washington because either last night he dreamt or was told by a priest whether the backward, the old priests or the new ones, that it's a bad idea or it's a bad omen to do this. And somebody just says, I will not go. So what can I do? But we are still hopeful that maybe because those bringing us together maybe have some power to move things, but at least for sure they have the intention. So we will wait and keep hoping that it's not just about a trip to Washington, it's about making steps towards finding an agreement that can help us start a process that will bring peace to our region and to our countries.
Thank you, Mr. President. We'll now take a 15-minute break and come back.
Maybe 15 minutes or even 10, and then we... But you forced me into a break. I welcome it, and I welcome it anyhow.
ni ikiganiro muri iki gice cyacyo cya mbere cyagarutse ku bibazo bitandukanye. Hari ikibazo kijyanye n'umutekano muke mu karere u Rwanda ruherereyemo, ahakomojwe ku masezerano ya Washington. Gusa aha perezida wa Repubulika Paul Kagame akaba agaragaza ko uruhande rwa Kongo rukomeza kwirengagiza nkana ndetse no gushaka gushyira mu bikorwa ibikubiye muri aya masezerano. Hari kandi ibijyanye n'uko umukuru w'igihugu yaragaragaje uruhare rw'ibihugu byo mu burengerazuba bw'isi bwitwaza nkana kurengera uburenganzira bwa muntu, ariko kandi ari bo ntandaro y'ibyo bibazo. Muri iki gice cya mbere kandi cy'ikiganiro nyakubahwa perezida wa Repubulika Paul Kagame yagiranye n'itangazamakuru, hanagarutse ku ngingo yagutse y'umutekano w'umugabane wa Afurika, aho nyakubahwa perezida wa Repubulika Paul Kagame yavuze ko Afurika ikwiriye kwishakamo ibisubizo mu gukemura mu buryo bwayo ibibazo uyu mugabane ifite. Avuga yuko umugabane wa Afurika ntacyo udafite cyatuma udakemura ibibazo by'uyu mugabane. Ku kibazo kandi yabajijwe ku bijyanye n'imiyoborere ye, nyakubahwa perezida wa Repubulika Paul Kagame yagaragaje ko uruhare rw'umuyobozi rwakabaye rushingiye ku gufasha abaturage. Turakomeza n'igice cya kabiri, ni ikiganiro nyakubahwa perezida wa Repubulika agirana n'itangazamakuru.
Thank you for the break, Mr. President. We'll proceed right away with the remainder of the questions. Let's start with Lacroix.
Hello, Mr. President. Vivien Latour for the newspaper Lacroix in France. What are your thoughts on the very likely dismissal of charges against Agathe Abiyarimana in France, and the link or influence her family could still have with FDLR through Kinshasa? Thanks.
These are some of the things I was saying, how the history, the facts thereof, sometimes they keep playing out back and forth, and even leading to minimizing the identity and the effects and the real bad image of FDLR. And you see it playing out in different places and ways. Yeah, in the recent time, years, months, we are aware one of the sons of Abiyarimana, and some of the people who ran away from here, by the way, who live in Europe, United States, and have been active on this agenda of FDLR, and they've been recruited, they are financed, they've been forming different things under the tutelage of the president of DRC, personally, not even we follow, we see the visits, the many visits they pay to DRC government in Kinshasa, and we follow their activities. They are enabled to get involved in. There are even those who used to be the officials of government who ran away like 20 years ago, again because of association with FDLR or other activities to undermine the integrity and fail the government so that it doesn't move forward. So you can link these things. You see the FDLR being covered up by some authorities in Europe and elsewhere, then the family of Habyarimana and individuals who were active in what happened in the tragedy, like his wife, and they are in the courts of law, the cases are treated the way those powers decide. And then those activities leading up to, and then in the end you have people saying, you know, if there are, how many people are they? You know, really it's like, for us who complain about, when we are complaining about FDR, these genociders, actually it is not even complaining about them in isolation. They are strengthened, they are made effective by the association they have with, for example, the government in Kinshasa or some authorities in Europe, or who allow this to, and then in the end who openly play down this. So you can put all that together and form a picture of how manipulations and wrong things have been going on around this problem of FDLR, but also how that relates to what is happening in Eastern Congo, or in Congo, and the noises that are made after that. Then you see resolutions that the UN sort of not bothered about FDLR, and not even bothered by those who support them, and trying to distance and make them innocent, those who support them. So it is in that form that we see even that case, how it has evolved. It has something to do with all that.
Next question from Theodore.
Hello, Mr. President. Theodore de Queiroz. I'm a French journalist based in Rwanda for Le Monde and the AFP, and also TV5 Monde. You spoke about association between FDLR and Kinshasa. Could you share us more information about the association? Do you have any clue of that? But also, can you help us to assess the FDLR threat in Eastern Congo in terms of number and firepower? Also, as dismantling the FDLR group seems to be one of the key of the Washington Peace Agreement, when will you consider that this group is dismantled? Thank you.
Well, everything I have said, even here, about FDLR and those who they are associated with, explains that. I don't know whether I just have to repeat myself. In fact, I even talked about how there has been talk about numbers as a way of making it. The easiest way to give you numbers if you operate here, maybe you should find time, they give you access, you talk to these people who have been captured and brought here among the leadership of FDLR, so that you talk to them directly. They will give you. But again, the issue of numbers. By the way, I have seen that, for example, let me give you, you know, in Congo, there are different forces. Let's say there are forces of Burundi, big numbers actually. Last time, since we talked about Goma, that even before just before Goma fell, Burundi had in Congo over 10,000 troops on the ground. Then you know that there are Ugandan forces in the areas of Ituri, Beni, and so on and so forth. According to DRC, these are invited, so meaning they are there legally. But for the forces, for example, of Uganda, one of the reasons they are legally there or invited is to do with these groups of ADF. Would you be interested in finding out or understanding, or let us understand, in terms of numbers, how many are ADF? To make it such a significant problem that justifies the presence of, let's say, the amount of forces that, the number of forces that came from. Do you have an idea? So, because I suspect there may be a fraction of FDLR, but it is taken seriously by that label put on them, terrorists. You see, terrorists, even when they are 5, they actually do harm, and people take that seriously. So if there are, why no one would take them seriously, knowing that their history, and worse still, knowing that they are associated with a government in DRC. And I mean, this is a public knowledge. Even the way you have heard of hate speech, you have heard of all kinds of things. If you want to know, you must be knowing. So still the issue becomes, how many would they be? How many? So it's like putting me to task. One, it is falsifying the issue of numbers. If we want to know about numbers, there are many. That's very fact. Then, but the essence of saying, how many are they? It's like to say, you are exaggerating. No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about what you said, that is said by so many, including authorities in Europe. I have been asked by some leaders of Europe, how many are they likely to be? When somebody asks me that question, immediately I know he's interested in covering up. the problem. And therefore, I associate it with all this I see. I said earlier when you are talking about FDR, say the resolutions, the statements made at the UN, they come saying, it is really like a whisper. It is just mentioned in the passing. It's not, but the reason is so that it's like Rwanda should not be taking action against them, which means from there, I can see they are saying they are not connected with the whole history or even their responsibility in what they did here. Well, by the way, they have also questioned even numbers of those who were killed in the genocide. It says moderate this and the others are just mentioned in the passing. It becomes an issue of moderate people who died. It's not about the mass of people who were killed in the genocide. This has been a subject of discussion and debate unnecessarily, in my view, for such a long time. So, the connection with between FDR and the Kinshasa government, my friend, I'm sure you know. And as a journalist, I'm sure you investigate, you should be knowing. I don't know whether I'm being tested to show how much I know, because I'm being asked by people who know. Then we can put it another day.
Next question to New Times.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. My name is James Munyanez. I'm from the New Times. Mr. President, you have previously said that Africa's instability is often the result of leaders failing their people, and that coups are symptoms of deeper governance problems rather than solutions. Mr. President, with the recent developments in Guinea-Bissau, and in other places before that, like Madagascar and other areas across Africa, what do these developments reveal about the state of governance?
What is that?
What do these developments, like the coups that we've been seeing, reveal about governance, the state of governance on the continent, and what should African institutions, and particularly the leaders of Africa, do differently? Because, Mr. President, there's a sense increasing among young people that maybe you have leaders that kind of protect a club of leaders across the continent, that kind of protect each other. So what should leaders of Africa and what should African institutions do differently, Mr. President? Thank you.
You know, first time when I heard about the coup in Guinea-Bissau, even now I'm not sure really what happened. But when I heard it first, I thought somebody was carrying a coup against himself. That was my first reaction. It didn't appear to me like there was a real coup taking place. Even now, I need some time to confirm. But let me assume it happened, or that in Madagascar happened. For sure it happened, because I think somebody's on the run and there's another one sitting there. To begin with, it means I'm vindicated in what I said that you referred to. And maybe we'll have more coups. And so be it. That is my approach to that question. If there are going to be more coups anywhere around the continent, so be it. Because I also believe, true, where coups are taking place, there must be something wrong that has been happening, even all along. You can assume, you can read stories, you can see and appreciate and like something, but once there is a coup, maybe 90% plus, it means in that place there has been a problem. People have been not talking about or covering up or something. Now, I don't know whether you want, again, my opinion, which I have. Because what is interesting, some of these coups are happening in a place where these, they are happening in places where these people who make judgment about us, the West, have been praising leaders. Okay? These coups only happen to tell these people you've been telling lies. Tell me, and maybe you can think about it and investigate and find out later, you'll tell me later. If this coup is not a coup against, let's say, in Guinea-Bissau, what do you know about Guinea-Bissau that tells you, you know what? Such a coup should not have happened. What is it? Because, or even go to Madagascar and tell me, you know, the way I know Madagascar, the way I've seen, why should the coup have happened? When we ask ourselves the questions in that form, we might then get to understand whether there are underlying problems or there haven't been, somebody just out of madness acted and overthrew a government. So the young people you talked about, you call them Gen Z? Well, why did you go to Z before you went to